In this video, we will explore what factors affect demand and supply, how buyers and sellers interact, how prices are determined, and the critical role prices play in allocating scarce resources. First, let's define a market. A market is a group of buyers and sellers of a particular good or service. Buyers collectively determine the demand, while sellers determine the supply. A competitive market features many buyers and sellers, such that no single individual has a significant impact on price. In a perfectly competitive market, goods are identical, and everyone is a price taker. Next, we turn to demand. The quantity demanded is the amount of a good buyers are willing and able to purchase. The law of demand tells us that when a good's price rises, the quantity demanded falls. Demand can be represented in two ways: a demand schedule, which is a table showing the relationship between price and quantity, or a demand curve, which is the graphical representation of this relationship. Here is an example using Sophia's demand for muffins. As you can see, her preferences align with the law of demand, showing that as the price of a muffin decreases, she is willing to buy more. When we plot these points, we get Sophia's demand curve. Note that a change in the price of the muffin leads to a movement along the curve itself, reflecting a change in the quantity demanded. Market demand is the sum of all individual demands. To derive the market demand curve, we add the individual demand curves horizontally by summing the quantities demanded by every buyer at each given price. In this example, we assume Sophia and Diego are the only buyers. By adding their quantities demanded at each price level, we arrive at the total market quantity demanded. This resulting market demand curve shows the total relationship between price and quantity for the whole market. It confirms the inverse relationship described by the law of demand. While price causes movement along the curve, other non-price factors cause the curve to shift entirely. These are the non-price determinants of demand. Key factors that shift the demand curve include the number of buyers, income levels, the prices of related goods, consumer tastes, and future expectations. For instance, an increase in the number of buyers increases the total quantity demanded at every price, shifting the demand curve to the right. Conversely, fewer buyers shift it to the left. This graph illustrates that shift. When the number of buyers increases, the curve moves from D1 to D2, showing a higher quantity demanded at each specific price point. Now, let's consider how changes in consumer income affect demand. For a normal good, an increase in income leads to an increase in demand, shifting the curve to the right. However, for an inferior good, an increase in income causes demand to decrease, shifting the demand curve to the left. Changes in the prices of related goods also influence demand. Two goods are substitutes if an increase in the price of one leads to an increase in the demand for the other. For example, if the price of pizza increases, consumers may switch to hamburgers, thus increasing the demand for hamburgers and shifting its curve to the right. Conversely, two goods are complements if an increase in the price of one leads to a decrease in the demand for the other. Consider smartphones and apps. If the price of smartphones rises, fewer people buy them, which in turn reduces the demand for apps, shifting the app demand curve to the left. Another factor is changes in tastes. Any event that increases your preference for a good will increase the demand for it, shifting its demand curve to the right. Finally, expectations about the future play a role. If people expect their income to rise or prices to increase soon, their current demand for goods often increases. It is crucial to distinguish between a shift in the demand curve and a movement along the curve. A shift is caused by non-price determinants, while a movement is caused by a change in price. This summary slide categorizes the variables that influence buyer behavior. Remember, if the variable is on the axis, it's a movement. If it's not, it's a shift. Let's test your knowledge with an active learning exercise. Consider the demand curve for orange juice and think about how different scenarios affect it. In the first scenario, if the price of apple juice, a substitute, increases, consumers will demand more orange juice at any given price. This shifts the demand curve to the right. In the second scenario, if the price of orange juice itself falls, we don't shift the curve. Instead, we move down along the existing demand curve to a higher quantity demanded. In the third scenario, if consumer income falls, and assuming orange juice is a normal good, the demand for orange juice will decrease, shifting the demand curve to the left. Now that we have covered demand, we will shift our focus to supply. Supply reflects the behavior of sellers and the amount they are willing and able to bring to the market. Now let's examine supply. Market supply is the sum of the supplies of all sellers of a good or service. Just like demand, we find the market supply curve by summing the individual supply curves horizontally. In this example, we assume Starbucks and Peet's Coffee are the only sellers in the market. By adding their quantities supplied at each price, we determine the total market quantity supplied. This chart shows the market supply curve for muffins. Note that an increase in price leads to a movement along the supply curve, which represents an increase in the quantity supplied. The supply curve illustrates how price affects quantity supplied, assuming other factors remain constant. Changes in these other factors, the non-price determinants, will shift the supply curve. The supply curve shifts due to changes in several key determinants: input prices, technology, the number of sellers, and expectations about the future. Input prices, such as wages or raw materials, are essential. When input prices fall, production becomes more profitable, and firms increase the quantity supplied at each price, shifting the supply curve to the right. For instance, if the price of flour, a key ingredient for muffins, falls, the supply of muffins increases. This is shown as a shift of the supply curve to the right. Technological advancements also shift supply. Improvements that save costs have the same effect as lower input prices, allowing firms to supply more output, thus shifting the curve to the right. The number of sellers in a market also matters. An increase in the number of sellers increases the total quantity supplied at every price point, shifting the market supply curve to the right. Expectations about the future can also change supply. If producers expect prices to be higher in the future, they might reduce supply now to save inventory, shifting the supply curve to the left. As with demand, we must distinguish between a change in supply and a change in the quantity supplied. A change in supply is a shift of the curve, while a change in quantity supplied is a movement along the curve. Here is a summary of the variables that influence sellers. Remember the rule: if the variable is on the axis, it causes a movement. If it is not, it causes a shift. Let's apply this in an active learning exercise. Suppose we have a supply curve for apple juice. How would various scenarios affect this curve? If grocery stores cut the price of apple juice, we see a movement down along the existing supply curve. There is no shift in the curve itself. Finally, if a technological advance reduces production costs for apple juice, the supply curve shifts to the right, as producers are now willing to supply more at every given price.